Once again, thank you for being here. The presentation today will be a little bit, let's say, out of the box in terms of technicality. So today we will talk about more on philosophy and ethics, and not that much on technical. Okay. So the title of the presentation for today is Accountability, Fairness, and Transparency in Artificial Intelligence, and why should we care about it, or if we should even care about it. Okay. So this is the main question. And in the end of our presentation, I would like to discuss with you if we should or shouldn't care about it. Well, before going into the rest of the slides, I will tell you the agenda for today. So before we talk about these topics, we should understand them. And the first part of the presentation would be on understanding the principles and concepts behind accountability, fairness, and transparency. These are buzzwords nowadays in AI, but it's important for us to understand them and to understand why or how they can be applied to AI. The second part of the presentation would focus more on this question. So, should artificial intelligence be above or not these principles? So let's see if we can gather right here some real use cases. And the use cases in this presentation are taken from the FACT conference, in which Isabel and I were in June in South Korea. So I gathered some papers there, and I want to discuss specific topics related to this field. And then, last but not least, the main question for today: why should we care, or if we should care, and if the answer is yes, how can we care? Okay, so this is the main agenda for today. Going to the first topic, let's now understand the principles behind accountability, fairness, and transparency. The first one that I want to talk about today is accountability. And accountability relies pretty much on being, on having an honest and ethical conduct towards others. Okay, so basically, each time we do some kind of product or are managing some kind of company, it's important that we have the will to remain or to be responsible for our actions. So more than just being responsible for our work, we have to keep our actions transparent and allow others to observe and evaluate. So you see later that accountability is quite connected to transparency, but remaining accountable is that it's knowing that we have like property and responsibility for our actions and the things we develop. In this case, high level, I'm not talking about AI, so accountability, we can be accountable in all actions during our lives, at the workplace or at school, anywhere. And in the end, actually, several studies show that there are several benefits of being accountable, because we can aim to excellence in our work or towards our lives. We can safeguard resources and have more accurate results, because if we have this feeling of being constantly assessed or evaluated, we will ensure that our work is being done properly. And of course, one of the things which is important, this applies more on the industry or company side, confidence. If we want to sell a product, remaining accountable will, let's say, increase the confidence of our customers, of our investors, and so on. So this is the first topic for today. Now, fairness, this is a topic which is slightly complicated, but basically fairness is the quality of treating people equally, or the way that we feel that is right or reasonable. So fairness is not actually equality, okay, although it's connected or related to fairness, has several assumptions. So the main one is that fairness depends on people's perception. So this depends on society. The norms and standards of our society will influence the way people perceive fairness. And on the other hand, this is more on the philosophical side. Fairness is also an element of social stability. That's why it's important for us to evaluate how people perceive it. Because if a human being perceives that it's being treated in an unfairly way, the society may tend to change. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we have to understand that human beings have the same dignity. Okay, so we were born equal, or at least we should have the same equal access to opportunities and tools, and people should perceive this way. So if we violate this assumption, that's that's the beginning of the end in terms of chaos and in terms of stability. Okay, so fairness is also a very important thing for social stability, and we can see later how this applies to AI. And last, transparency. So as I was saying in the beginning, transparency is quite connected with accountability. Here, the main thing is like, the main word here is openness. So we can, if we do something, if we develop something, and we are or have the will to be, let's say, publicly scrutinized or available, it's also important to keep things open for people to check. This connects a lot with the open source movement, let's say. So if we develop some kind of algorithm or code, it's important for us to keep the repository public so people can actually assess it, find bugs, and propose some kind of alterations. And this applies to all the processes we have once again, in our lives, especially in government or workplace. For instance, companies, they have to put their finance reports online and available for the public. And this is a measure of transparency, because if the processes are transparent, once again, we will increase the confidence of people in those institutions, and directly or indirectly will contribute as well to social stability, because all the institutions that we have, public or not, are based on transparency. So people in their daily lives, they think that, for instance, the state institutions, they are transparent and they treat everyone equally and fairly. So this is very important. These three concepts, usually they relate to each other. It's almost impossible to have like these three separated. Okay, now that we understand these three concepts, let's see if artificial intelligence should be above or not these principles. So there are some books on this, and there are some technical or technocrats who have these libertarian ideas, who actually say that we should do whatever we want, and the market will regulate themselves, and so on and so on. However, I will try to ask you 3 questions, and then in the end we can discuss if artificial intelligence should be above or not this principle, or if should follow or respect these principles. So my first question, if we assume that AI should be above these principles, I will ask you why, if we may have several biases in our training algorithms. And these 2 paragraphs that I bring here are from this conference, as I said in the beginning, and they show 3 issues in datasets. The first work is from Irak et al., and it showed that in a very, let's say, trendy task, which is visual question answering, it showed that we have societal biases in our datasets. And if we have these biases in these datasets, what will happen is that when we train some kind of model, in this case the visual question answering model, all the harmful stereotypes that we still have in that data, because data is gathered, data represents the world, so it's almost impossible to, let's say, gather data without bias. This is a burden we can accept. Although we have to bear in mind that these may be there. And in our works, usually we don't bear this in mind. So these guys there, they try to investigate some kind of sexual and racial biases in these databases. And once again, they try to understand the difference between women and men, and actually some specific ways for attributes that were underrepresented or badly represented, okay? On the other hand, once again, we also, the quotidian, they present a study of bias in machine learning, and here it's most on the speaker verification, so we also have these on our cell phones and daily life computers. And once again, this was done in the US, so all of these words usually are done in the US, okay, because they have a very strong community on these topics. And what we find out is that female speakers or non-US nationalities usually experience performance degradation, which is not that cool, because if we allow our algorithms to generalize, this means that they are not generalizing properly because of this bias only. The second use case that I'm asking now is that if we once again assume that AI shouldn't be above these principles, I will ask you why. Because AI is already influencing our lives, directly or indirectly. And we can discuss this principle here. So the sole question of having AI already influencing our lives is a problem per se, but let's assume that we already have AI influencing our lives. So it's important, we should see how is it influencing our lives. In this case, I also brought you two papers. I have the sources in the slide, so then you can check them later. And the first one, I know if you remember the accidents following Tesla self-driving cars. We had several accidents, and we still do in some cities of the United States. The problem with the law here is that how can we, let's say, pay if we have a civil lawsuit, so people usually receive money because of the harm that some kind of institution or individual have done. How can we how can you take the responsibilities on Tesla since the accident was provoked by a self-driving car? So should we responsibilize the developer, the company? There is a twilight zone here in this field of law, because law cannot, I mean, without this objective evidence, cannot solve the case, and usually the people who suffer the harm are the ones who end up like waiting for years until the case is solved. And so these guys, they try to study what they call the tort lawsuits or civil liability, and they advocate for AI explainability, which is something we are doing in the group, because AI, this opacity in neural networks, especially neural networks, may hinder this evidence. So if we know precisely where is the error and who we should, let's say, calling for accountability, it's easy to solve these lawsuits. On the other hand, this also applies in state institutions. In the US, they use algorithms to, let's say, perform some tax audits. Okay, in Portugal, that could happen as well. So we also have algorithms for several things. I remember the Portuguese fires in the summer when we had a minister saying that the algorithm was actually predicting more fires than the ones we had. And what Black Hat discovered is that this algorithm was aiming for people with low income. So they were performing more audits on low income people and leaving the people with high incomes outside, or usually outside of this loop. So they try to implement some kind of vertical equity, and they actually implement machine learning algorithms to let's say, to balance these things. This is a very interesting study because it's not only about philosophy. We have several technical implementations that actually lead to algorithms that will retain this balance between low income and high income, so everyone is treated equal. But this is happening in the US. The cool thing there is that they have this data publicly available, so it's easy for us to actually talk with these institutions and ask for data and do things. That's the way they do it. Actually, I actually met this author, and their work is quite interesting. Okay, and then this is more focused perhaps on the work we do in the group. What are the things that we can actually extract from a face? And I decided to put this work here because we have work in this group on this part. And this is more on the application of the AI, not the AI itself. Why? Because I will point to the second one. These guys, they had a presentation there, in fact, and they show that there are people who actually use faces, solely faces, to take decisions. Okay, so they look at a face and they decide whether or not they will advertise you some kind of product. There are actually companies that use faces to see whether or not you are intelligent for a specific job, and they solely use faces. So they did this study with non-experts, okay, in AI, and to see how people react to faces, because it's a normal thing. We are human beings and we react to the variables we have in our environment, and we can see that people actually they accept to use faces in advertising. So skin tone or sex, they say that it's reasonable to use faces only for advertising things. However, they told the researcher that not for the AI context. Although we know that we have companies doing this. So they check your face and they decide whether or not you are cool for the position just based on your face. Okay. So imagine you wake up on the day in which your face is not that pretty or so. and you may lose your job or an opportunity because of that. Once again, the first study is the one which is more common, so they find out that ethnicity and age, once again, are unbalanced in data sets, which is normal. So what we have to do here, or what they advocate, is that we have to bear this in mind and try to correct our algorithms related in function of this skewness in our distributions. Last but not least, the one that I like the most, high-stake decision applications will always strike us in our work. So in the group, we work with medical applications, we work with biometrics, we are not working with finance, but we could. So these are high-stake applications, and if we want to transfer these applications to the market or to create impact in society, they will always strike us, okay? And here I brought two studies. The first one is on human-computer interaction, so brain-computer interaction, actually. And these author actually study the way we are gathering data from our brain, and is advocating for several human rights on this process. So it's not only gathering data or using sensors, we have to bear in mind all the rights that the user has or doesn't have. Usually the user has lots of rights during the process, and now we actually create these constraints to create systems that will bring benefits to the user. The second study is more on law application as well. So this perhaps applies more to the US, but we have algorithms that try to predict some kind of outcomes in law. And usually, because of the data and the bias of the data, these algorithms, instead of mitigating bias and discrimination, they are increasing it. So we say that the algorithms are biased, but in fact, the data is biased because human beings are also biased, and data is generated by us. So what they propose here is also an interesting work. They proposed a data augmentation process to mitigate this bias. Once again, it's more technical, which I guess will interest you more. So they actually have a pipeline of data augmentation to mitigate this. Okay, now that I'm approaching the end, I will try to answer why should we care. Okay, so we already have seen these problems, and for me it's important that we understand that we are in possession of a great power. And as Uncle Ben told Peter Parker, we great power comes great responsibility. So I believe that us as developers have this responsibility, although we may not be always, or we shouldn't be always thinking about this when we do our algorithms. It's important for us to bear in mind these principles. And responsibility is based on 5 principles, okay? Accountability, interoperability, fairness, safety, and privacy. And it's part of the science job or the science worker to always maintain this balance between ethics, technical, and legal part. So nowadays the work is multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary, and it's impossible to, let's say, be enclosed in a box without thinking about this. So I'm advocating for this. And now let's see how we can apply these principles to AI. So here we have lots and lots of text, but basically in accountability, the main question that we should answer is that who should we, or who should be accountable for the AI system? And usually it's people. And to be accountable, we have to respect some things. So if we are trying to do something that will impact society or that will enter the market, we should apply these processes to our algorithms. Multiple metrics, checking the data, understand limitations. It's not only about getting 100% accuracy, we should understand the limitations of our algorithms, and that's totally okay. Algorithms will have limitations, and you should know them before the user knows it. And these, perhaps you can learn some best practices from software engineering. Fairness, as you can see, is all about biases. It's a very subjective topic. So here we have to interact more with social sciences. Perhaps myself, especially myself, I don't know anything about bias or, let's say, how people perceive it, but some people of the humanities side or the social sciences side, they understand it better. So it's important for us when dealing with these specific topics, okay, such as medical or something like that. Perhaps it would be cool to have more discussions with them and learn how to assess this fairness. For instance, if we have worked in a group, let's say skin cancer lesion detection, if you only use like white tone skin to train algorithms, it's quite normal that the more in a black tone skin, for instance, they will not work. And that it's normal, but we should know these biases before actually advocating for high performances or something like that. Oh, one of the things that we also work in the group is safety, and on safety we can talk about attackers. Once again, we develop the algorithms, we should understand the limitations, and we should create frameworks to attack our own algorithms, so we can, let's say, anticipate how would hackers react to these attacks. So this is related to safety. Here we can think about adversarial machine learning, which we are already doing in the group, and trying to mimic these attackers, and so on and so on. Okay. And last but not least, we have to think about privacy. Here, with medical or biometrics data sets, privacy is not all we need, but it's one of the things that we need for sure. And so it's important for us to actually create frameworks to perform our trainings and to get models that respect the rights of people to privacy. So privacy is a basic human right, and it's possible for us to, it's mandatory for us to respect it. Here we can train, once again, some technical parts. We can train using federated learning frameworks. We can have models that actually promote privacy. We are doing this in the group. So everything that I'm talking here, I guess the group is quite well aligned with the topics. And once again, see and ask people from other areas what would be the implications of respecting or not specific attributes. Now, a little bit of law for you. Thankfully, we are in Europe, so Europe got it all from the beginning. So what Europe says, or the European Union says, is that we have to regulate data before AI. So if we use data to train AI models, the problem, we can solve the problem in the beginning. So that's why they propose the GDPR. And this GDPR thing, which is very trendy nowadays, actually came from the 20th century, okay, from 1950, on the European Convention on Human Rights. And as I said before, everyone has the right to respect from his private and family life, so that the right to privacy is a fundamental human right that we have to respect, being researcher or not. And from these people's privacy rights, we have all the other rights in the GDPR. So this is not really rocket science, and it's not nothing new. It's something that always was there, but nowadays people are paying more attention. Because if we respect this pipeline, we can actually get people to trust AI, and we can trust more AI or have more confidence in algorithms. So it's all about, once again, respecting the three principles that I was talking about in the beginning. And with these ones, the European actually created an expert group on AI. It's available, it's publicly available, and I guess we as researchers can actually participate or contact them and propose measurements or ideas. And once again, there are several guidelines let's say, they don't connect more with specific ideologies. Once again, the threshold is human rights. So diversity and non-discrimination, societal and environmental well-being, accountability, privacy, all of things are completely common to, let's say, to democratic liberal regimes. Similarly to the United States, in Europe we also have an AI Act. When I was doing these slides, I don't know if this is already published or not, but the European Union was actually trying to develop regulation based on the GDPR. Now this is applied to AI. And this is applied to AI because we currently have several AI products that are entering the market. So it's important to apply the rules that we have on computers or cell phones to these AI-based products. So this AI Act actually creates a framework to protect both the seller or the people who are developing and the customer. So our markets are somehow regulated. It's important for us to know our rights and duties towards this market. Okay, now to finish my presentation, I brought you an image. It's not from my authorship, but I guess it summarizes quite well these three principles. So every time we talk about transparency, fairness, accountability, and so on, you may find like these four words. We have inequality, equity, and equality, and justice. And for me, I guess we should aim for the last one. Okay, we can have equal societies, but you can see that even by having equality, sometimes we have people who are jeopardized. Okay, as that guy there, because the tree is somehow some inclination. If we advocate for equity, it's also cool, but that would be unequal because we have the ladder is different. So perhaps we should create justice. And creating justice is creating equity and equality and equal access to tools and opportunities. And if we are developing algorithms that do not promote justice, I guess we have a very, very strong problem with our work, and it's important for us as researchers to understand it as well. So hopefully I convinced you that these principles are important, although it's not directly or it's not clear whether or not we should apply these in our daily jobs. It's normal because we have data, we have to develop algorithms, but it would be important to bear this in mind, okay? At least during our motivations and during the writing of our papers and the outcomes of our works. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next time.